Welcome to Tiffany Turned On. I'm your host, Tiffany Anton. I'm a psychotherapist specializing in sex and relationships, hoping to help you discover current topics in a fun, sometimes serious, and educational manner. I hope to help you get turned on to life as well as inside of your bedroom. Did you miss the first part with Miss Ashley Robertson? If so, you didn't hear about co-regulation, fight, flight, freeze, skipping stone strategy, graphic novels, having the words that often we don't know where the hell those words are, the wonderful and recommended website called amaze.org. You have some short videos there, can search by topics, and it helps us when we feel clueless as parents. Understanding sex positivity, and creating plans with our kids to explore safety within your family values. You want to reach out to Ashley? Check her out at Miss Ashley Robertson. She provides remote sex ed for small groups and coaching and loves working with non-traditional families. Hope you enjoy this episode. I'd like to throw out a couple of scenarios that I'm just going to pull out of the top of my head. This is not one I experienced, so again, I'm just pulling it out. All right, I've discovered my 14-year-old is active on porn on the internet. What is wrong with my kid, or is this going to screw up my kid?
Awesome. The first thing I would do is go to amaze.org and look up porn. How do I talk to my kid about porn? There's going to be amazing videos that you can watch, and you can practice saying some of the lines from the video. Each family is going to have a different set of values surrounding this topic. And so I'm not going to tell you what your values should be. For some families, it would be like, of course, they're 14 and this is a safe outlet for their sexuality, right? That could be one family. Another family could be like, absolutely not. They are underage. Porn is for 18 and up. Like, no, absolutely not. There's things in the middle. That's a spectrum too, right? So each family's ethics are going to drive the way that they go forward with this. Amaze.org will have lots of good scripts in order for you to say things to your kid, starting with the reality that your child's character is not their behavior is very important. So your kid isn't a bad kid because they did a thing. Your kid's choice, their behavior is what you need to address. And making sure you make that distinction when you're engaging in the dialogue about this with your kid. Like, I am so thankful you're my kid. You have taught me so many things about how the world works, and I'm continuously learning because of what you bring to me. This situation is uncomfortable for me because I have to address a behavior that I didn't like. But you are an amazing kid.
I've had the discussion of, I love you and the heart of you is amazing and your behavior just sucks, dude.
Right.
So let's deal with this behavior. And that wasn't related to, the talk about sex education. It was related to all kinds of other things.
Right.
We had the statement, at least when I was growing up, you likely did too, the shame on you. Then we start to integrate some of that shame that there's something inherently wrong with me. And we need to reaffirm to our kids that they rock.
Mm-hmm.
And this behavior, that's not okay. And here's the reasons that it's not okay.
Right.
And we're going to create a plan and you're going to implement it, dude. You're going to end this behavior, or we're going to keep peeling down and problem solving.
Right.
The importance of that inherent worth of your child, lovability of your child, even when they're acting like a total idiot and doing really stupid things.
Yes. I'll also say that with this scenario, collaborative problem solving would work really well. Collaborative problem solving is where you come to a situation with a kid old enough to solve a situation without a plan. And you know that between the two of you or three of you or however many of you are in the conversation, you'll come up with the plan together. Because kids know when you are leading them into something. They hate it. Kids know when you're just trying to get them on board with whatever it is you want to do. Like, they know when you're being fake. And so collaborative problem solving is where you say, this thing happened and I'm responsible for you. So we have to figure out what we're going to do going forward. And I don't have all the answers. What do you think we should do?
Brainstorm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the idea in that space is that they are capable of having power over their destiny. They're capable of adding to the conversation in a way that actually will change the outcome. So you don't say, you don't just plan on grounding them even at the end of the conversation. Your plan is to figure out together how you're going to make amends, how you're going to plan for accountability, how you're going to manage changed behavior going forward, who's responsible for what, and you're actually in real time creating the solution together.
What I have done frequently is I will say, in regards of like a misbehavior or a screwy choice, is that I will say, well, how'd that work for you? And I say it more kind of curiously instead of, how did that work for you?
Ooh,
No,
so different.
it's, how'd that work for you? And then it'll be, is that something you want to do again? Is that something you're planning to change? It's their path and journey. As parents, we provide our kids with maps, and we would love for them to take the map of, here is the direction, here is the major highways to get there. You're going to be safer. And then our kids create their own maps, their own paths. And we sit back and look at how can we be loving, encouraging, as well as having boundaries and limits. So I hear a huge amount of respect and appreciation for someone's values, that you're not in the space of changing values. You're in the space of helping. How might you be able to address it?
Correct. Yes.
So
Our whole lives curriculum, that is the foundation, is that every person is capable of defining their own values. And so when we come to the class, the lesson, the workshop, we are never teaching values-based information. We are teaching medically accurate information, and we're helping kids be critical thinkers to assess what their values are.
So if I give you the scenario of and I'm doing the binary thing again, a 5-year-old little girl that's spending a frequent amount of time humping on their, let's say, stuffed elephant. And you've noticed it a couple of times as the parent that, okay, here's Jane, and she's over here humping on the elephant. And my instinct is to say, stop. What do I do instead?
So that's a developmentally natural and appropriate behavior at that age. And that's an age when you can teach where that behavior can happen. So that would be something where you say, I noticed that you are playing with your elephant. That kind of play has to happen in private. You can do that in your bedroom. And each time you just say the same thing. So you become a robot. At no point is your flustered tone adding shame or frustration to that activity. So there's no linking that together of your flusteredness and that behavior. You just pick a thing that you're going to say every single time, and you just say it every single time.
And what if the parent says, well, that's something that I did, and she's in her room, and I notice she's doing it a lot in her room?
If it becomes a point where you think as a parent is problematic, you talk to a pediatrician. They will help you. It typically resolves. I will just say, like, it's similar to the way a kid learns shut up or get out of my face, and then they use it for a week, and it's like their favorite thing to say, and you're mortified by the reality that they keep saying get out of my face, and then you're like, oh, that finally ended, thank goodness. So usually it just resolves.
Now let's think about someone that might be sexually acting out. So we'll make the child 8 years old. The child may be kind of taking off their clothes when it isn't appropriate, or really getting on the lap of Uncle Jack.
Those are
Saying,
some warning signs of abuse. Those are some warning signs that would need intervention. And that would mean talking to a doctor, talking to a social worker, talking to a therapist, and making sure that there hasn't been something that has happened to instigate some highly sexual behaviors for an inappropriate age.
yeah, that's a great thing that you brought up, is there are some behaviors that are more acting out and other behaviors that are totally natural.
Yes.
How would I know the difference between acting out and what's natural?
A literal Google search will help you to know. You could type the words 5-year-old sexually age appropriate, like you can, whatever words you put in there, and there will be a list of appropriate milestones, meaning like by the time that a kid is 2, often they figured out that they can make their penis erect. Like that's natural, that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not normal for a young child to want someone to be touching their penis all of a sudden all the time. Like, that's not normal. Researching, just basic Googling, will help people assess that. And you can always ask a pediatrician for guidance on those.
How would the parent handle it if you have your child in the doctor's office and they're freaking out about the doctor's exam, getting a shot, and it isn't just kind of what we would say, yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking when we see the doctor. Yeah, we get a whole vibe that what else might be happening under there.
Yeah, so there comes a point when you're a sex positive parent where you're teaching and modeling consent, and you're having a lot of discussions with your kids about things they can consent to and things they can't consent to. And you're recognizing, like, I still have to get my kid to take a shot or get in the bath or brush their teeth. And if I force this activity, how am I modeling consent? Right? That's usually a pretty common concern for parents that are like, they are saying
And
no,
as
and I still
parents,
have
we
to do
don't
the thing.
often even think about consent when our kids are growing up, yet it is vital to teach them.
Right. So when you do start teaching them, they're going to start exercising it. And that's good because that means they are taking the lesson in, they're making meaning of this idea of consent, and they're recognizing their no has power. So then it shows up at the doctor's office, and you're like, oh my gosh, they really don't want this shot to happen, and I have to override their no. How is this going to set us back? Because I've done all this work to make them feel like their no has power. And I just want to reassure parents, like, it's not going to set you back. If you as a parent can be crystal clear that your job as a parent is to keep your kid healthy and safe, and when you override their no, it is within the categories of keeping them healthy or safe, then they will notice the pattern. They will notice, I am shoving this toothbrush in your mouth and you're screaming and you're saying no because I have to keep your teeth healthy. I am holding you down at the doctor's office to get this shot because I have to keep you healthy and safe. And if you can just repeat that each time you have to override their no, it's my job to keep you healthy and safe. It's my job to keep you healthy and safe. I mean, I literally have strong armed my 11-year-old into the shower because they didn't want to get off of screens and they didn't want to miss out on whatever I'm doing in the kitchen, which is not even exciting because they didn't want to take a shower. And I'm like, I have to make this happen. It's my job to keep you healthy and safe. Yes, your kid is going to push back when they start to realize their no has power. That means it's working. And it's your job to toe that boundary, that expectation that you are going to follow through by overriding their no when it is within your job to keep them healthy and safe. The way that the curriculum handles family diversity is just the reality that there is family diversity. We talk a lot about all the ways that babies can be made because there's lots of ways babies can be made. We talk about all the ways families can grow and add to them because there's lots of ways families can grow to add. And again, taking kids out of their boxes, like a family is a mom and a dad. No, no. I know that feels comfortable for you to think that, but no, that's not
Families look different.
right. Reading lots of books about family diversity is helpful, and getting your kids in spaces where they can see diverse living humans is really helpful. So if you recognize that your life is a certain kind of way and very homogenous, taking some steps to change that makes you a really great parent because that means that you're intentionally getting your kids to see all the amazing differences that are out in the world. The whole conversation about like families that are non-monogamous or families that have multiple loves, that becomes a little bit more tricky because of conservative states. I know certain states you can lose a job just because you're in an open marriage. And that situation, I often wouldn't recommend that a family come out to their kid real early unless they feel like their kid knows how to assess audience. And if the audience can handle the information, if the audience is trustworthy, then go ahead. But if the kid can't assess audience, then it's very possible they could out someone who could potentially lose their jobs, and the risks are just really high there. If I were to witness something like that out at a restaurant, I would say something like, all families are different and love is love. More love is better. Just like I'd prefer to have 5 scoops of ice cream. Yeah. Yeah. Bring it on. Sweets. Yeah. And then just kind
Well, I love sugar.
yeah, you do. Me too. It's my main vice. Yep. That one's a little bit harder just because of the risks associated.
You, though, work with, let's say it is a polyamorous family.
Those are
And
my favorite people.
okay.
Those are my favorite people.
As we were talking about how would we educate our kids and understanding the different dynamics, this is one about this is our family, that we
Right.
have 5 partners together.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you provide more one-on-one guidance, so that you're working with the parents and caregiver within that family?
Right. Yes. So I'm a non-traditional relationship coach as well as a sexuality educator. Recently, I actually wrote a birth plan for a family that had 4 adults birthing a baby. And they were like, we need a plan for when this baby comes and how we're managing responsibilities and who's doing what. Yeah, those are my favorite kind of people. I just am very in tune with the risks associated with that kind of love. I'm a little bit more cautious about telling people they should get their kids in on it real early just because the risks are high.
Well, and our kids come into the family and they don't realize that it's different.
Right. And non-monogamous love has been researched. Kids that are the product of non-monogamous love have been researched, and they are coming out with flying colors in the research. The kids that have been raised by open and polyamorous families have higher levels of compassion than their counterparts. I mean, there's a ton of research right now that's really saying these kids are great. These kids are fine. Leave them alone. So really, we don't need to be worried about those kids. It's just more we need to be worried about protecting the adults from the systems that are not built within our society for managing.
What
that
comes
kind
out
of
to
love.
me is the word values. And
Mhm.
so people have different values. So the Joneses next door might think, hell no. But what's happening in that home is a healthy, loving interaction.
Yep.
You
Mhm.
mentioned that you have a list and you provide education. Do you also do that online? So I'm a remote therapist. Do
Yes.
you offer remote sex education training?
I offer remote sex ed for small groups. I also offer remote coaching with people if they're interested in changing the way they work with their kids or if they're interested in help with non-traditional relationships. Yep, I do all that. And people can find me on Instagram. I am Ms. Ashley Robertson, MsAshleyRobertson, Ms. Ashley Robertson.
And can people on Instagram also send you a couple of questions? So not
Yes.
only request meeting with you
Yep.
online and in person, but, tell me how to handle this.
My
Or
DMs are open.
I checked out amaze.org and I couldn't find anything that actually fit for our situation.
Totally. Yep. I can refer you to other resources and I can find things myself and send them along. I'd love to help.
Well, I am so thankful that we talked today. And this is just kind of breaking the iceberg on difficult discussions and talking about healthy sexuality with our children. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you joining me today.
So much fun.
The music for Tiffany Turned On is provided by Kumasi Afrobeat. They are New Orleans' full Afrobeat band. They play to make you move. KUMASIAFROBEAT.com to listen more. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead, like, follow, share with your friends, and leave a review. Any of the recommended books or items that you hear about on my podcast, you can find them on my website. I have a special tag for sexual resources and wellness. This includes my TEDx talk titled I Love Pleasure. I consider it free therapy. It's all at neworleanssextherapy.com. I hope you're here to get turned on to life and in your bedroom.